Coach, team coming off an impressive 21-10 win over Chattanooga. When you went back and looked at it, what did you see that Wofford did really well?
Well, I mean, I think like we talk about every week is controlling the line of scrimmage, and I thought we did that up front. When you look at the total rushing yards that they had, and then obviously the total rushing yards, that we had, those were some impressive statistics. We won the game in the style and the fashion that we want to win it, and it all starts up front. It starts up front with those offensive linemen, those defensive linemen doing their job and really doing it at a high level and continuing to do that.
This is you've been preaching all year, four quarters, and really dominating the fourth quarter. What do you attribute the team's success in being able to do that?
Well, I think it's a mentality. I think one thing we talk about all the time with our guys is, we try to make them understand the commitment and time that they put into this for 11 opportunities, and to go out there and squander 1 quarter or 2 quarters would be a travesty. And, I think that they've accepted that. I think they see the time that they put in there in the summertime and in the spring and the strength and conditioning. They don't get tired, although some of them may have got tired, on Saturday because of the heat. But they stay strong. They continue to get strong as the game goes on, and that's what we really pride ourselves on as a football program.
One of the great things in football is finding the edge and then maybe going right up to it and not crossing it. Yeah. As a coach, how do you work with the players with that, of making sure you go out there with an edge but not necessarily crossing the line?
Well, you don't want to overcoach it. I think on some of the penalties that we had, whether it be the targeting or roughing the passer, some of the unsportsmanlike penalties, I think we've got to do a better job of coaching guys up. I think we've got to do a better job of explaining to them the rules and how to engage appropriately. That falls on me as the head coach. One of the other unsportsmanlike penalties, talking after the play or talking to an official, those are unacceptable. But it's an emotional game. We want to do everything we do with first class. We want to be a first class program. But we also want to play with an edge, and I haven't been around very many good defenses that didn't have an edge, and you want to go right up to that line, and that's all just part of coaching. It's all about embracing the emotional piece of it, and I think having great relationships with your players so you can bring them over, calm them down, and they understand where you're coming from.
Furman this week, it's a team that Wofford beat twice last year. What do the Paladins have, and what does Wofford need to do this week to be successful?
Well, no different than any other week. We're going to have to go out and execute our game plan, what we want to do, how we want to do it, and really each guy, again, making sure their piece of the puzzle is 100% right on. They've got, a tremendous coaching staff. They're getting better as the season goes on, which you would expect. They know us. We know them. They understand the option. We understand the option. We understand a lot of each other and what we do schematically. So, we'll dive into the vault in terms of 3-4 years ago. We'll see what both coordinators have done in the past and try to make sure that, we cross the T's and dot the I's and put a little bit more time in because they've had an extra week of preparation.
As an offensive line, I think we just dominated up front. I mean, that's what Coach preaches every week, is if we can dominate up front, offensive line, defensive line-wise, then we're pretty much going to set ourselves up to win the game. And as the game went on, we could see just across the line their defense was tiring out, and that only fueled us even more to go harder and finish blocks and make the extra play to allow our backfield to get an extra hole, fight for a few extra yards, anything we could do to help us dominate up front.
What's that like for you guys as an offensive lineman, knowing that even just the slightest bit of a hole could lead to a big play?
I mean, that's really exciting. You love to block for guys like Andre or Lennox or Blake and Joe. I mean, those are guys that you give them an inch and they'll turn it into a mile. So as an offensive lineman, you're really excited to block for someone like that, someone who you can have confidence in, that if you do your job, they're going to do theirs and they're going to get in the end zone no matter what.
Have you had to brush up on your pass blocking skills this year?
Just a little bit. I mean, with Trey Johnson, the new offensive line coach, really this past spring, worked on our techniques and just kind of changed up what we were doing. And this year, we have thrown the ball a little bit more. That's different for a Wofford team. But I think, that all accounts for just us being dominant up front, being able to dominate on the run, and then when we go play action, it makes it so much easier because defensive linemen don't know passes coming. We don't have to pass on those third and long situations because we're so successful on first and second down that we avoid those third and long situations where we would have to pass.
Furman this week, you got them twice last year. What do you remember about playing the Paladins?
They're a good team. They're physical. They have a lot of talent and a lot of depth. But I think, just for this week, Coach preaches all the time about going 1-0 every week. So last year, it was awesome to beat them twice. But really, we're just focused on what we can do this week to get better, to prepare for their team this year. But watching a little bit of film on them, they have a lot of guys returning. So they're a team that they know what we do offensively. We know what they do defensively. So it all comes down to execution and, like Coach has said before, being able to dominate up front and own that line of scrimmage.
What was so great with the defensive play on Saturday?
I think we just stayed the course. We were locked in. After the first drive, we settled in, I think, and we never got too low or too high or whatever. We were even kill and just played our game.
Depth has been tested with the defensive line this year already due to injuries and other things. What are you seeing from the young guys?
They coming in, they're playing a huge part. They're doing their thing. Corey Prince he stepped up. Lufkin stepped up big time, and I'm proud of them. And I'm excited to see what they can do the rest of the season.
How much does going against our offensive line help you all when it gets time for games on Saturday?
I think we got the best O-line in the country, so seeing them every day is like on Saturdays, everything's easy.
Talk to us about this week, Furman, a team that you've played twice last year, a team, in fact, you hadn't lost to in your career. What do you need to do to be successful on Saturday against Furman?
Just make sure we're bettering ourselves, every asset, every way we play the game, that we are being a better Wofford team than we were last week, than we were every practice throughout this week, and I'm sure we'll come up with the win.
Got a new position coach in Alan Smith. What's Coach Smith done, and how do you like playing for him?
Coach Smith is a great person. He works us very hard. So on Saturdays, we're not as tired, and we appreciate it. Practices, Thursday practices, sometimes it's supposed to be light, and we're drenched in sweat, and we're just going after it. So I'm happy that he's here. I'm grateful that he's here, and he's working us how he is because, without having a lot of depth, we need to be in shape. We need to be able to play as many snaps as we can to be successful.
You're a guy that's got aspirations to play at the next level. What do you need to do individually to continue to make that step where you can play in the NFL?
Not worry about the NFL. Just worry about what I'm doing here right now, and take it one game at a time, one day at a time. Not think too far ahead and just stay where my feet are. I'll be all right.